subscribe.
On the morning of May 9th, 1968, the Kray twins and other members of the firm were arrested by Nipper Reed and his team and charged with the murders of George Cornell, Frank Mitchell, and Jack the Hat McVitie. The trial of the Old Bailey was presided over by Justice Melford Stevenson and became one of the longest and most expensive criminal trials in English legal history.
When I started the investigation, I'd become a superintendent and posted to the murder squad. I'd made it. And then I went in to see the assistant commissioner, and he said to me, congratulations. Now, Mr. Reed, he said, I want you to do the Krays.
I do know that I'm told anyway, and I'm pretty sure it's correct, that there's orders from the very top people to lock us away and make sure we were locked away.
I think we thought the best evidence probably was Cornell. If we won that and then went on to McVitie, the publicity that was associated with the first trial was such that it could be said we couldn't get a fair trial on the second one. And that was the arrangement that we said, well, we'll join the two murders and we'll leave Mitchell out, and then we'll have a separate trial for Mitchell. And that's what we did.
Well, I think it's all meant to intermingle. That was the idea of it. So it would overlap, each trial would overlap another one. Each case would overlap and throw some badness off.
Did your counsel ever suggest that you should have had separate trials?
There was some mention of it, but not enough.
It was quite obvious they should have been tried separately. And not only did I move the court, move Milford. He should try them separately, but I got him to stop the trial so that I could take the case to the Court of Appeal. They likewise refused. Backroom talk with the Court of Appeal judges' clerks. The government behind this and the Court of Appeal weren't going to interfere.
There were 10 men in the dock. Only 2, Ronnie Kray and Ian Barry, were on trial for the murder of George Cornell. The remaining 8 men sat in front of the jury, awaiting their trial for the murder of Jack McVitie.
Well, the judge turns around, Melford Stevenson, and he says, well, you must ignore the people sitting in the dock on the McVitie murder because they certainly didn't have anything to do with the Cornell murder. Likewise, with the Cornell murder, you must have nothing to do with the McVitie murder because it's the only connection is Ronnie Kray.
Well, it's one of the great trials of the 20th century. One of the great criminal trials. It's a great show trial. It was a mafia trial. And they conducted like a mafia trial right from the very beginning when the police convoy brought them into the Old Bailey.
And there's a lot of politics going on behind the scenes which we didn't know about, like media coverage, which was, it wasn't of our making.
Every single night, the television had come on, the news, we'd be on the news. Every single night. Now, it was a trial by publicity.
Today, many judges would have reported newspapers and television for contempt. The Krays, in my view, were killed by publicity.
Of course it tainted the jury. I mean, all the whole circus must have tainted them.
Justice Melford Stevenson was legendary for imposing long sentences with terse and often corrosive remarks. He had acquired a reputation as Britain's toughest judge, terrifying defendants and barristers alike.
I've been doing criminal law for nearly 40 years, and I've never come across any case where any judge has behaved in that manner.
Oh yes, he tried to undermine our points and to underscore the points made for the prosecution. There's no doubt of that, but that's within the scope of a wayward judge anyway.
if any good point was being said by defense or witness, the judge would turn to the jury and literally smirk and turn his eyebrows up.
Ronnie was in the box. Melford said to him, "Mr. Kray, I think you've only said two things in the whole of your evidence. The first is the prosecutor's a big fat slob, and next, that I'm prejudiced against you, because I certainly am."
You know, Ron had murdered Cornell, no question, and Reg almost certainly killed McVitie. Yes, he did. But it was a muddle, and it was a mess, and a lot of other people were involved, and the truth didn't quite come out about it.
I think really and truly there was so much evidence against them. The twins should have put their hands up and said, "Look, we'll take it," because they was offered the deal that you take it, like you put your hands up to it, and all the rest can walk.
All of a sudden, you've got their own cousin, Ronnie Hart, done the right grassing anyway. He's told them exactly what's happened, and about half a dozen more of the so-called heavyweights on the firm have all grasped one another and grasped the twins.
When each of them was arrested, I interviewed them and said, "Look, this is your one opportunity. You will never get another. I'm telling you now that I'm going to charge the Krays with murder, and there may be other cases as well. You've now got the opportunity, if you choose, to come on the side of law and order, to make a statement to me and tell me all you know about the Krays, and this is the only opportunity you'll get."
I pleaded guilty because I had no chance. The charge was harbouring Frank Mitchell, and I told him never read what it was all about. And then he says, "Can you tell me about the Cornell?" I said, "Yeah."
And Ronnie said, "We got Scotch Jack is going to take Cornell's murder. Ronnie Hart is going to take Jack the Hat, and we want you to take Frank Mitchell." So I thought about it just for a few seconds, and I said, "No, I ain't having that."
Of course, you can't ask a man to do that. What sane man's got to say, "Yeah, I'll put my hands up to a murder and get a life sentence for something I've not committed"? I mean, it's ridiculous to even think it, you know. Of course, he had to roll over.
The loyalty of all the other gang members is something that's quite remarkable. They did not want to dissociate themselves with the Krays and in that way appear unloyal, because this was the structure, this was the society.
We're loyal to the culture. We're loyal to the friends that we've always known, the people we drink with, the people we eat with, the people we piss and shit with. You understand?
I put them before my own family. You know, Chris just had to go along with it, whether he likes it or not. That was his chosen path. I went down that road, and there was no going back.
They didn't have to go down. They could have done what Albert done and what I done. They thought, well, the twins will get us off with this. They've got good lawyers, good barristers, plenty of money about for them. God knows what they paid. The rest of them had to get legal aid.
Did your counsel ever suggest a diminished responsibility?
They done it indirectly. The message did come down the line, if I wanted diminished responsibility. But of course, it would have been guilty to go with it first and deal afterwards.
You didn't want that?
No.
Why?
Because there was nothing there. I think they just wanted me guilty. And morally, to me, it wasn't right morally. I couldn't go against my brother, so that was it.
So you think that if you'd have taken their offer, they then would have wanted you to damage Ronnie's case?
I'm sure that would have been the case, yeah.
No, diminished responsibility does not apply to someone who says, "I never did it." It's as one would say, there's an alibi and self-defense. You can't have both. If he said, "Yes, I did it," then we look into what the state of his mind was at the time. But he always denied he did any of these.
Mr. Foreman, I want you to ask me simply by saying yes or no. Have you all reached a verdict in the case of Ronald Kray in the first indictment? Yes. Have you reached a second indictment? Yes. And then went back to say, and then how do you find Roger? And he said guilty. And then he said guilty. And I was looking down like this, and I couldn't look up. My eyes were full of tears. It was a bit of a, all the work that we'd done was justified.
Ronnie Kray, 30 years. Ian Barry, 20 years. Ronnie Bender, 20 years. Reggie Kray, 30 years. Charles Kray, 10 years. Tony Barry acquitted being under duress. Chris Lambriano, 15 years. Freddie Foreman, 10 years. Tony Lambriano, 15 years. Connie Whitehead, 7 years.
Well, the judge was so carried away by the duty he felt he had to put down the whole tribe that he dished out to the lesser members as well. I never thought that Milford would swing with such violence.
I wasn't surprised at the sentences in any way. A gang of people that had ruled the East End of London by a regime of terror and fear had killed people coldly, analytically, motivelessly, in full view of other people, simply because they wanted to exercise their authority as gang leaders.
How old are you now?
66.
And how long have you been in prison?
Just over 33 years.
33 years. So you've spent literally half your life in prison.
Reggie would have been in a place like this. This is a cell that's not wide and it's not long. And you never felt the cold until you've been in somewhere like this. He might have had a few photographs and pictures on the wall, a bed there, maybe he'd been allowed a bed cover and a radio, and that would have been his total existence.
Day to day, that's how you live it. That's how you live it. You survive it, you come out of it, but you can never forget it.
I've seen a man killed over a small transistor radio. Man walked by me and said, "Good morning, Chris," and walked in the cell and murdered a man with a homemade knife in cold blood over a small transistor radio. What price life?
I had a certain amount of trouble there, and over the years I've done a certain amount of cons, inmates, for different reasons. So I had assaults on my record, done about 6 screws.
He had his fights with the screws when they first went away. He tried to kill himself. No one said about that, but he tried to kill himself because he was sick of the life he had in there.
Yeah, I can't be missed in Long Lartin prison on 2 occasions, one twice in Parkhurst. I think it was the depression at the time. I think I was on some medication and its side effects, I believe they've done it, side effects of the medication, Valium.
I don't think he meant to top himself. I think it was a cry, a terrible cry. Help me.
A man who does more than 10 years is changed for the worse, forever, I believe. An ordinary man of ordinary capacity, I think, is ruined by it. You've got to have some spark of genius or maybe a political ideal.
Everyone sees it more than reasonable. If I'd have been out 15 years ago, at least the most, you see. But why I never, I can't explain.
If Reggie Kray had expressed complete remorse some years ago when he's 30 years old, then the probability is that he would have been allowed out.
I think it was everything, the books and the films and everything that had gone on around. And I do believe that when they sentenced Reg and Ron, and they sent them to prison, and they locked the doors, and they believed that they had well and truly thrown away the key, and that the next step would simply be obscurity. And in fact, the exact opposite happened. And the media interest grew and the public fascination grew. And the Home Office found itself 27 years down the road with 2 men who had become incredibly famous.
The idea of somebody who's in prison becoming the subject matter of a film is deeply unpopular. I think it's felt that somehow, even if it isn't financially, they will benefit. And benefit by the fame, if that is a benefit, by the notoriety. The last thing that anybody in prison needs is a high profile. And they were, to a certain extent, author of their own misfortunes.
So I've got a certain amount of writing ability, which I think my mother's passed down to me. She wasn't a writer herself. She's got great common sense in there, but I seem to get these inspirational flashes, and I think it's passed down from my mother. I can't see it being coming from anyone else.
Among his writings were certain revelations that were not popular with other members of the firm, who were still serving long prison sentences.
4 or 5 years later, he admits it. I done McVitie. What good was that to me, or any of the other defendants, any of us? Nothing. Yeah, I was disillusioned with it. Big sick about it. There I am sitting to Nick for something that he couldn't admit before, and a couple of years later he comes out of it. Did we all go down for him to write a book?
Ronnie Kray wanted a traditional East End funeral, and his family made sure his wishes were respected down to the last detail. Among the masses of flowers was a tribute from Reggie, which read, "To the other half of me."
And then came the message from Reg. My brother Ron is now free and at peace. Ron had great humour, a vicious temper, was kind and generous. He did it all his way, but above all, he was a man. And that's how I'll always remember my twin brother, Ron. God bless Reg Kray.
I used to get pre-warnings type thing. If I felt that he wasn't right in himself, I get a kind of instinct about it, and I knew it was always right. We had a form of communication. It's very difficult. I still got it, in fact. My back area feels very burning in a nice way. A nice, warm, glowing feeling. And I think that's Ron's presence. I've not had it since I was in Maidstone. It's been back the last few days.
Do you think you were dominated by Ronnie?
Well, I suppose there's a possibility. I allowed him to dominate me to a point. I think it's some silly thing I had in me that just let there be peace. You see?
I don't doubt that there was a big space in Reggie's life and a terrible emptiness. And I can't say I went in and filled that, because you can't replace someone else, you can't take the place of them, but you can just help to ease that pain and to give someone some love. And if they can give you some love back as well, then you have achieved something.
You used to train a lot in the prison. Did you stop that regime as a result of feeling ill?
Yes, I stopped training hard. When I got to Wayland, I still used to go to the gym, but I lost the incentive I had, not because I didn't want to do it, but because of the stomach problems. So I still trained over that period of 3 years, but it started to decrease then. I still think it's the best thing to do in prison. I can't keep talking about prison, can I?
Reg was ill for a number of years, probably starting at Maidstone, continuing at Wayland, getting progressively worse through his 3 years at Wayland until the final year, when he was in almost continual pain and discomfort.
Over that period of years, did you feel you had something seriously wrong with you?
I definitely did, and I told him this. I definitely did. I knew there was something seriously wrong. It couldn't be otherwise. I was going to the toilet so many times a day. It was physically impossible, almost. And when I told him this, it didn't have any bearing on it.
I says to him, "You don't look too clever." But I shouldn't have said that to him. I should have said, "Oh, you're looking all right." You know what I mean? But you don't think. You just say what's on your mind. And he didn't look clever at all. He looked very ill. And he was. He had cancer.
Do you feel that death is the only way they would release you? Do you feel they wanted to keep you in there forever?
I think the way I was released wasn't satisfactory to him, but helped to resolve a very bad embarrassment on their part. So that's the best thing. They got a good deal, really. They got a good deal. They found a way out, but I still fell in front of them.
It was a huge event for him to get his freedom. He'd waited 32 years for that, and he was tremendously happy, he was tremendously elated. But at the same time, the downside for it was that it was almost like a confirmation of the fact that he was dying.
You don't see it at the time, because I had a wife and a young child. And I had a son born when I was on remand. I was never to see him until he was 16 years of age when I come out. I had a daughter who was nearly 6 and was 22, nearly 23 when I come out of the nick. The marriage was over. My father became an old man, never knowing really what had happened. You know, and the tragedy and heartache that left for all our families. What good came out? Where was the glamour and all that? There was no glamorous about it.
We'd lost everything, really. We'd given everything up for them. Our future, our lives.
Our club got ruined after the trial. In a matter of about months, the police revoked the licence and put us out of business.
It's like the association, the smear it rubbed off on us, you understand? 1970, that was it was all over.
It's really a Cockney tragedy. It's a very, very sad, god-awful story. The idea of it actually encouraging anyone, or anyone wanted to be like the Krays, is another part of the sadness, because it's something sad in our own society, which makes heroes of people like this.
What better message can you put out to the would-be gangsters of today, or the criminals coming up? These are the heroes you look up to the youth, and say, well, look what happened to them. The 3 of them have all died in prison.
I find it hard to believe they're all gone, sitting here today. But it seems to me that that's the way it had to be, one or the other. It was a warning that if you do this or you do that, this is what could happen to you. And I think that was the message left here over the years.
Prison life is a waste of time. I get letters from all over the country. These kids write to me, and I advise them. It's very difficult when kids got nothing to do and they've got no money and they've got all kinds of social problems there. So it's easier to say than it is done. But speaking from my heart to them, I'd like to see them stay in prison. But whether they can do so, I don't know. Some will make it and some won't.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please join our Facebook group. It's called Krays Crime Lords of London. We're a friendly moderated group with over 1,000 Kray and other celebrated gangster videos available for view. There's also thousands of images in the photos sections. The link for the group is in the YouTube description section. I hope we see you there soon.
Leave a like and subscribe.